Happy Monday night. It's Pat Sloan here for my daily video, and this is the fireside chat version on Monday evening. I am going to talk about the old school block, the Jolly Bar, and first I'm going to introduce you to my new little neighbors I have all over my yard right now, these cicadas. Have you been seeing them around? If you've been seeing them on the news, apparently they don't live in your neighborhood. A lot of you never even heard of them before. They have a 17-year dormancy where they go underground where they've fallen from the tree, which is going to be happening in a few weeks. So they're coming out, they're flying around. They don't bite, they don't hurt you, but when they fly into you, it is just icky. They are big, they're bumbling, they're ugly as anything. And there's like, ooh, I do not want cicadas jumping on me. And then they will have babies, the babies will go on the ground, and 17 years later, they'll do the same thing again. So that is what's going on in my neck of the woods. So I want to give you the status of my last month's block for the old school. I'm getting there. I've decided that I will do at least 3 of these a day to get around the outside, and then that will go on to the peach background. So there you can see what it'll look like when it's up on the wall. And we have a little bit more now because we're going to do the May block. For the old school block of the month block for May, Natalie Santini did this really cool sort of braided effect. She is with So Hungry Hippie. I was debating, and I'm still debating as I'm filming this, trying to figure out which way do I want to go. So first, here is a photo of my blocks together. You can see that the April hexagons I've got them on the outer row, which is like, yay. Actually, I'm thinking now that I have you here on the outer row, I want to give myself a challenge of do 3 hexes a day and get that row finished up so that I can definitely get it done by the end of the month. Okay, moving on. You can see the colors. The color palette for this is pretty tight. Like, one of the things I don't have up there yet is much yellow. There's little pops of yellow in the prints, but I don't have any yellow in the actual blocks yet. So I'm like thinking, maybe what I need is to do a yellow one. So let's take a look and see. I also need to have enough fabric because of the size of them. I'm working with a package that was a layer cake, so I'm working with a layer cake. So there were some duplicates, plus I'd gotten a little bit more of this black, and I had gotten a little bit more of this yellow. So if I do black and yellow, that will be super striking, and it'll be able to bring that yellow now into the quilt. I have it in one of the blocks as that little inner border, but I don't have a lot of other yellow. Another option I thought was to make more peach. So if I did it back and forth, you can see on hers how graphic that was and juicy colors. So she had those gorgeous sort of dark peach and dark red, or raspberry kind of color. So this would be really nice. It'd be super high contrast. It would really pop the difference in these. Now I could put some rust in there, do the rust against the peach, because I have a couple of pieces of this. So there's several of those, which means I will get enough of them. I have enough fabric to do this block. So I don't know. Which do you think I'm going to go with? This is such a hard decision. Do you mull this over? Like, how long do you mull over a decision like this? Well, I'm taping and I need to sew it. I need to cut it and sew it so that I can show you here in a second. You will end up sewing 4 of these units. I've already got one cut, so I'm going to show that to you because there's a little awareness issue. So you got to be on your A game when you go to trim these so that you don't mess it up. When you go to trim, first you're going to take the square that you did, this unit that you did, and you'll trim it as Natalie's pattern says. And then when you cut them in half, be sure you're always cutting them the same way. Otherwise you're going to get a different image if this one is cut from this end. So you want to be sure you have them all. You can even stack them 2 at a time if you wanted, but I'm cutting mine all with the light on the top, on that end, and then cutting across, which will give us a really cool design. Now from the stacks, you will make 2 blocks. You've used one in the quilt, and you can have the other one as maybe make your label out of it. But what you're going to do is take just one of the stacks. So if I want to just set that one to the side right now, and if I'm going to use this stack, I will take the point. So you have this the triangle, take that point, you've got the long end here, and you will put all the points together like this. And when you're doing this, you will create what she calls a pinwheel in the middle. So this has the black pinwheel in the middle. If I put this over here, smush it over there a little bit. If I take the other set, I will get, drum roll, which color? Yellow. Yellow pinwheel in the center, which just means it will be a lighter look, right? So there we go. And you can see there's how they came next to each other. She shows you this picture too, like this in her pattern. But there's a yellow pinwheel version. So I will sew them both up and decide which looks best in the quilt. And here we go, both of them sewn up, one with a darker pinwheel in the center and one with the lighter pinwheel in the center. Let's see what they look like on the quilt. I'm really anxious to see, because I'm not sure whether one will actually look darker or lighter than the other when it comes down to really putting them up here. Let me move the card over there. So if I put the lighter one up, so there you can see, yeah, it okay, let's see the difference, because you know, there's the one that has the dark pinwheel in the center. I do think that one looks darker. Let me just put them side by side. There we go, because they won't both go in there. Yeah, it's kind of like this, right? You know, whether one really looks darker or lighter. I might go with the lighter one in here. And I also have all the little churn dashes, and here's the one for this month. And I started laying them out, or getting them out rather, and I thought, what if I use them for cornerstones in the sashing like this, so that I had these, you know, pretty wide sashings on this quilt. I like that idea. I think that's a lot of fun. I will have to sprinkle around. I might have to make a few more churn dashes than the 12. I don't know, maybe I don't even need 12. I have to go figure out what that layout would be, because it'll be 3 by 4 to make it a lap quilt. And then I have this floral for border. So there is my there's my old school stuff in progress. Now be sure that you check your seam allowance, be sure you check your block size on this one before you put it in your box to weight again, because you might need to trim off just a little tiny bit. I did. I needed to just trim just a teeny weeny bit to get it to 12.5. Okay, my friend, now I have another tip for you that I was working on fussy cutting, and fussy cutting, if you're not familiar with it, you can learn about it in this book. It's my favorite book on fussy cutting. It's about creating images and taking images out of the fabric, but I was doing that for a project, and I thought, well, maybe you'd like to see my thought process on that. While I was fussy cutting an image so that I got it right in the middle of a square for a quilt, I was doing some placement things and thought, oh, well, you might like to see this. You might just, you know, see how I'm doing this, because there's a little bit more than just that placement that goes into my thought process. Now, of course, I should have done this while I was cutting the 4 pieces I needed for the quilt, but I didn't. So that means I'll have to cut one more for you, which in the scheme of things and amongst friends, what's cutting a little bit more fabric? When you are cutting specific images, we in the quilting world called it fussy cutting. F-U-S-S-Y, fussy, like, you know, particular, where we want a specific image in a specific place off the fabric. I am cutting from this piece, which is from the fabric line Dwell. It is a fairly busy print in a way. It's just the gold on black, but there's a lot going on. Within this imagery, there are specific little elements that you can isolate, that I isolated for my quilt. I needed a 3.5-inch square, and I am going to come in close, because one of the deals is I was cutting from here. This is where I was cutting my squares, 3.5 inch squares. This is a lot of space that I did not use, but I cut out of it the squares that I wanted because the image I'm using is a fairly large repeat. If you're looking at the rest of the fabric here, this image, and I'm going to come in closer, this guy here is what I want. It's repeated here, and then of course it goes up vertical, but it also goes horizontal. So I could have gotten it like 3, 3, 3 up like this, or I could go this direction. And maybe I should have gone this way, but I started this way first. So right now, like if I wanted to get another image of it, I can come back out here on the end, and I'm looking for isolating a 3.5 inch square around this flower that has the wreaths around it, and then more wreaths here, flowers on the side. Now this flower looks, let me come in closer. This flower here looks the same as that one, but it doesn't have the same imagery around it. It's a totally different imagery. So I want this guy. And at 3.5 inches, I need half of that space, which is going to be 1 3/4. So I marked that off with this tape on my Olfa ruler. I marked it 1 3/4 and 1 3/4 because that little center point right there will be the middle of my flower. So I am not being ultra fussy. This is fussy enough for me that I will take the middle of this flower. Here we go. Well, darn, come on, let's stay in the middle here. So there is the middle of the flower. And I will be cutting, this will be 3.5 over to 3.5, and then I will rotate. So I already know I am just going to cut off all of this edges out here. So I will take and do the 3.5, well not 3.5, I'm just taking across the whole thing so that I can move this away, move the rest of the fabric away. And from this you can see, whoops, sorry about this. Okay. From here you can see I have more than a 3.5 inch square. I've got like a 6 inch square that I'm cutting this out of. Right now I want to get the other two corners. So I want to get the other two corners, the other two sides. So I need to take my 3.5 and put it on the back side. So I've got the lines here for 3.5 matching, the lines on the left for 3.5 matching, and the center of the flower is right in that junction of this L shape on here. So I have here and here, 2 more cuts. And then now this is the extra that I would figure out what I want to do with it. First, this is my imagery. So here is what I'm looking for. All 4 of my units will look like this. So this flower will go in the 4 corners of the quilt, and it's really nice and symmetrical. So from the extra part, I first want to measure, do I have a 2.5? I have almost 2.5. It is just barely on that side. And this side is also the same. It's like 1/8 of an inch short of 2.5. And this side is probably slightly less than 1/8 of an inch short. So I'm going to take this side. I'm going to cut this off, and I will cut 2.5 inch squares to go in my stack of 2.5 inch square things. So I will take these 2, even though one's a smidgen short, I don't care. And here I have a stack of them, and I'll add it to that. And then this will go over to all these crumb blocks that I'm doing. So that'll go over there. And at this point now, I'm left also with this guy. And I'm okay with that because I really wanted that image. I really wanted this. It looks spectacular on the quilt, and the only way for me to really accomplish this is to have a little bit of overage. I hate to call it waste because, you know, I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it in the crumb blocks. So it's not really waste. I'm not putting it in the trash. I could sew this to some other black ones and then make my 2.5 inch squares. I could do that too. All right, now I have 5 of these. I have an extra one of these. Maybe I will put it on the label for that quilt to memorialize fussy cutting those corners. I hope that was interesting for you. Let me know in the comments. I really like being able to do these little tips and show you and insert them in the video now. I have been working hard to learn how to do that. I am not a video editor, so I appreciate all of your patience on my video learning. It's like, because video editing is a whole other skill set, and just being able to do this much is like a big deal for me. Okay, reminder, public service announcement. You can get my new book, the holiday book, from the Fat Quarter Shop for 20% off with their discount code PATHOLIDAY. And I believe it runs through the 19th of May. That is the last day, so you want to zip on over there. If you've already gotten my book, maybe you have somebody you would like to gift one to, or if you belong to a guild, you could get it for the guild library at 20% off. Just pop it in your cart when you get your other things, and then the quilts will eventually come back here to me, and then I will show you the quilts here and tell you about them on my chats. Remember, at the very end of the month kicks off, the last day of the month kicks off the book tour. So we're going to be visiting with, for 2 weeks, every day, a friend of mine who will show you one of the quilts that they decided to showcase with their fabrics or their style. It is going to be so much fun. You will love it, love it, love it, love it. If you love the one with Morrison Park, you will love this one too. They're just great. My friends are so creative. And several of them have their own fabric lines, so they will be making it up in their fabric line. So it is going to be fantastic. All right, let's do Jolly Bar. So this is kind of the wrap-up week. I'll probably mention it again down when I get the quilts back. But the sampler version, let me move this out of the way. I have it, there we go. Now, I don't know what to do about the border. I have the polka dot. I had the polka dot, which is what I did on the inner border, and that's good. I might use it, so you can see there, but I'm not sure. I might wait until the fabric line comes out, because remember I got this early, so the fabric line isn't out yet, but it will be soon. And I might get one of the prints from it, maybe with the kitty or the floral that has a little spideys in it. Or I might just put this on because I have it. This will definitely be the binding though. That's a definite. Now I am going to send this off to Kimberly at the Fat Quarter Shop because she wants to show it on her live stream. So it will go off and visit her, and then it will come back from Texas, and I will decide the border. So I'm going to probably send it without the border, and she can show it like that because it actually looks good like that too. I mean, if you want to use it as a wall quilt or as a child's quilt, this is a great size. The border is just going to give it that little bit more oomph. It'll be 52 by 52 by 65 when I put the border on it that I want to do, which is, I'm looking at the pattern, the 4.5-inch border. So, you know, I've got all of this in the pattern at the project page. Links are down below, and subscribe when you're there if you will, if you haven't done that yet, and then click that little bell so we can be friends. Okay, leftover still. I have 4 of these big half square triangles. So I'm thinking I will just do like a little mug rug. Maybe just set them like this. Maybe I'll make one more in black, because like this one I didn't have another black one. I'm like, okay, so maybe I'll make one more and put it in black so I can get 4 black ones there, and then use this maybe as around the label or something. And all of this was our sew along from the Jolly Bar 3 book. This was so much fun, so much fun. I really, really liked it. Some of you did the long version. Gina, that does the quilting for the Fat Quarter Shop, she did a slightly different table runner version. Maybe you followed her. But I also, ta-da, I have the friendship bracelet, and I put a wide border on this. Now this is going to go to the spa. To the spa, I have the backing done already. So this is, here we go. Ta-da! I'm going to turn it around because I want to show you something that I do. I knew I'd have it upside down when I opened it. So first, let me show you this. So here is the friendship bracelet from the book, and this is one of the blocks that we did in the quilt too. In the sampler we did that block, but I debated on the border, and then finally it's a 7.5 inch border, cut 7.5 inches. But I love it because it makes it nice and big. Now the thing is, when I send my quilts off, I put a little marker on here that says top, and I staple it. I don't pin it with a pin because I don't want Cindy to stick herself, and I don't use a wonder clip. I don't use one of these because these could fall off as she's getting stuff out of the bag. It could snag and just pull off. So I actually staple it out on the edge, and those do not leave big holes or anything. I've been doing that for years. I also do the same thing for the backing. If it has a top, I don't want her to guess what is the top. I tell her what the top is because sometimes it's very subtle. For me, it might be some of the images are rotated away that I think is vertical. It might be that way for the border. On this particular one, for me, it's the border itself. Like, I feel like the junctures up here went together a little bit nicer than they did when they were at the bottom, and so I want those at the top. Does it matter? No, but it does to me, so I mark it, and that way I know that when it comes back I'm happy with it, because if we do a quilting on it that is directional, then I'll know, I'll have her do it so that, you know, it's at the top. Okay, one last thing for today, because I have just been, it's just been crazy how these little bits of fabric multiply. For those of you who must keep everything and you're not sewing it, you must be drowning, just drowning in this stuff, because I feel like I'm drowning and I have hardly any. All right, so I'm to the point where in the rolling case here at the top, I've put now up here I've got like things that that we're calling like crumbs, right? Because they're the little pieces, little stuff. But these are like strips down here. Strips, 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 strips. And all of this in here is pretty much strips. So now I need to start making string blocks rather than those crumb blocks, because here are the blocks, that I've been making, where I'm, using here, these are in progress. See how many are in progress? I have like 4, like here. So here they are in progress. And this is where I'm using up this stuff, this small stuff, and sort of leave it up here, sew it together. Here's another one started, which those are great because, but I need to sew these strips up. This is like crazy. I just don't even, it feels overwhelming. I just want to just toss them. But I told myself I wouldn't do that for the year. There's like a skinny one I kept. So if you have a string quilt, show it to me in the Facebook group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan. You can also, at my article today at my website for this post, and the link is down below. There's the sharing, photo sharing there. You can share your photo there. So if you've made a string quilt, send it. The traditional one is you do the strings on point. Like here, I'll just put, like you would take them all, but they would be on, whoops, you're not even seeing that, are you? But they would be on point, so that you would have something like this, strings, 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 and then the block would be on point. But I am thinking I could do something a little bit different. Maybe I don't have to be like everybody else. Like I could have something a little bit different. In the past, I've taken these and just sewn up, like basically a stripe. Sewn like a whole big unit, like maybe fat quarter size or fat 8 size, that maybe a 20 by 20 of just these strips. So it's just a piece of like striped fabric, and then I would cut that and make other blocks, make traditional blocks. Like maybe I would make a churn dash or a star or something like that. So I would recut it into a traditional block. And I might play around with that. But first I want to do something that I don't have to do as much recutting. I would like to just sort of sew it up and have that as the base unit. So those are my thoughts. That's where I am with everything. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this quilt. I can't wait to get it quilted after it goes and visits the Fat Quarter Shop. Don't forget to get your book because I will do something from the book. We will be doing something as a community. We'll still be doing a sew along of some sort. I'm trying to think through and look at all the other things going on and seeing what would be the most fun for all of us to do. It won't make me crazy. There's always that factor. We can't make Pat crazy. All right, my friend, I love you. Mwah. See you online.